name's Peter Adamo. I was in sea rescue for 40 years. I started in October 1967 at the very start of sea rescue. I was one of the founder sea members, crew gang members. At the time there was about 12 of us in the station. That was Station-8 Bakoven. We had first of all a 16-foot manor boat, and as the most junior crew, I was 17 at the time, as I said, and I was stuck up in the bow of the boat right up front, and the coxswain was right near the back with the steering was right near the off part. So I used to get bounced around on the boat. It was a terrible rideless boat, hard as anything, and we were always going out in southeasters. So the boat got smashed around, we got smashed around. Our clothing at the time was just oilskin jacket if you had one. I was lucky I had one from fishing. Other guys just were ordinary coats on, so they got soaking wet, and we generally froze quite often. In those days there were no protocols. We had no experience of what to do and how to do it. So we started making our own, and at the time old Mitch Brown, one of the coxswains, first coxswains, said, how do we actually rescue a person? How do we go about if a person's drowning? So just feet in the water, and then they came rushing with a boat at you, sometimes just missing you, and we'd work out ways of trying to get a person into the boat vertically, sideways and sideways. And it was quite a learning curve for all of us, figuring out how to do this sort of thing. And we wrote many of the protocols that are still in use today. Towing a boat, again we had no idea distance, tow line, what type of rope to tow with. It was just nobody with any real experience at all. And our counterparts, the RNLI in the UK, we wrote to them, but the letter took 3 weeks to get there, and then they would take a couple of days to answer, and another 3 weeks for that letter to get back to us, and then to try disseminate that amongst the guys was another month or two. So communication was very poor. Talking of communications, we had a Army PYE radio, which worked very well on land, but as soon as it got wet, it didn't like working anymore. The other form of communication now, how did we get a call out? In those days there was a crowd called medical, and doctors all belonged to it, and they carried pagers. Pagers were effective. They'd do a voice communication and just say report to, you got an accident or something like that. For sea rescue, in those days we only had one in the station, so it was one per crew, and on changeover on a Friday the coxswain would get that. As far as we were concerned, the rest of the crew, when you wanted to go anywhere, you had a phone medical say, look, I'm going to so-and-so, I'm going to be contactable at this number. And quite often it would happen, you'd get to this place, maybe a party or something, and there'd be a message for you saying you've had a call out. So you immediately had to turn around and drive like a back again to the base. That went on for quite a few years, and then eventually each crew member on duty got a page, which was wonderful. So at least it gave you a bit more freedom of movement. Bakoven was the Station-8 was the first station to be formed, followed by 3 Anchor Bay. At the time the boat was in the bay, but we, as having small boats, we had limited range, and with the high southeasters that we have here all the time, there was a need for more bases to form. So Hout Bay was the next obvious one, being close to Cape Point, all the fishing boats that were out. And it was Ken Brady who started the whole ball rolling, and he had the boat shed built, had the first boat inaugurated. It came to us at Bakoven lots of times to get info, how things work, what to do, what not to do, learn from the mistakes we made. And that base, it became very popular. I say popular, they did a lot of calls because of the harbour here, and as more and more people started getting into pleasure boats, so they became busier and busier. It took the pressure off Caban ourselves a lot, and certainly it's grown all the time in all these years. In 1982 I moved to Hart Bay. My wife and I bought a plot and we built, and at the same time I'd done 16 years in sea rescue and I thought I'd done my time. But then the guys in Hart Bay heard that I was here and they said please come down because they needed my experience. At that stage we were very new. So I joined here as deputy coxswain, and I became a coxswain shortly after that. And I was able to put in a lot of info from what we learned at Bakoven and using my experience from there to help really get the base going. I was a coxswain here for several years, and then I became station commander. I was station commander here for 8 years until 2004. Unfortunately, when I had a heart attack and I had to have a bypass, and that sort of ended my seagoing career. I was 37 years altogether served as seagoing, and then I stayed on for another three years just as a temporary sort of helping out controller. But after that I thought it's time now to leave and let the younger guys get on with it. My scariest rescue was just at the back here behind Seal Island, where Dungeons is, the big waves. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. We got called out that the boat was going aground on the rocks. So we took Spirit of Rotary out, went out there, saw the yacht on the inside. So what I did was we had two blinders, one in front of each other. So what I did is take the boat level between them and go through. And then I turned up into the sea. And then I was going to come back down onto that yacht and get a tow rope on it, had all the guys ready. And as we were going backwards, and when all of a sudden I saw this wave sort of approaching, and I went ahead to counter it, and nothing happened. All I heard was a break. Something went in the cabling system, and we were just thrown up on our beam ends, and this yacht was pitchpole backward right over, and the crew were thrown into the water. I had to shoot down below, managed to get control, get one engine back, and the steerage so I could do. So we couldn't go on the same route because that yacht and them had been taken quite close to the rocks now. I couldn't get close enough. So we called for them to get onto the boat, which was still floating, and which they did. And then I took us out of there, went right around to the far side, and came in through a very narrow gap, sort of rocks on either side of us. And I was down below just holding the boat, and we got close enough to the one to take the one lady off. There were two guys and a lady. We got her off and back down below, but I couldn't approach again to get close enough to them. It was just too dangerous to the boat because we were just too many rocks around. So we waited and we had tried calling. Now we're also in a dead area as far as radios go, but we had someone had gone up onto Chapman's Peak so they could relay messages to us from there. And then Leanne Roper came in excuse me, with the Rescue Alpha inflatable and took the other two people off, transferred them onto our boat, and then we got out and got back here. That I'd say amounts to the scariest that I've ever had.